I'm your host, Dino Watt, and get ready to be inspired as you learn exactly how to own your role. And welcome once again, everybody, to the Own Your Role podcast. I'm your host, Dino Watt, and excited again for another episode where we get to talk to unique entrepreneurs about their journey and about what they're doing in the world to make it better. Before we get on to our guest for today, remember to always like and subscribe to the show. Make sure that you get that notification button hidden so that you know when we release, which is pretty much every week, if not every other week, with a new episode. Again, I want to thank everybody who comes up to me or writes me or just thanks me in personal messages about the show and what they've learned from the show. I feel like the last almost 200 episodes that we've had have really evolved and been a lot of fun for me. And I love meeting many of you at different conferences and you talking to me about how you listen to the show. So with that being said, today is going to be no different with our unique entrepreneurs because we have Geoff and Liz Sudit today who are going to talk to us about a couple of things, their journey, as we always talk about our stories, but also something that I'm actually really passionate about. I've been really a champion for it over the last year because I think it's such a unique and smart idea. And as I said, I always love talking to unique entrepreneurs. So that being said, let's welcome Geoff and Liz to the show.
Hello.
Thanks for having us. So I'm glad I'm not top 200 entrepreneur, but now we're in that next tier.
That's right.
I'm honored. We're both honored.
That is good. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much it adds up, the shows. Like I was like,
That's
wow,
awesome.
we've done that many shows. And then we changed the iteration to the show because it used to be the Propreneur podcast. And about 35 episodes ago, we shifted to the Own Your Role because I was talking to mostly dental ortho professionals. And then now we just expanded it and we've had some really interesting people. I had a guy on, I don't think it's aired yet, but it was last week before, who does all this stuff around being able to understand kind of your life experience through your eyeballs.
What?
And like
That's
what's
crazy.
going on with your eyes. It's crazy the stuff's out there, but it's really interesting too. So anyways, welcome again to the show, you guys. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we always start our show off with everybody's story because I believe stories are what connects us all. I think in this iteration, what I'd like to do is ask Geoff, why don't you tell us your story of kind of what we were teasing about at the beginning on the off air about how you got into the world of ortho. And then Liz, why don't you talk about how you evolved that and how you've helped in the business to create what you've created?
Yeah. So my dad's a general dentist, like a lot of us in the industry. So I kind of is in my blood. And I practiced as a GP for like a day before I decided that I didn't want to do it.
Whoa.
It was 1 year, and that year was plenty. I learned enough. It was great. But I'm too ADD. I like talking to people and seeing 70, 80 patients a day is much more my speed than 2 or 3 root canals. So that's kind of how I went from dental to ortho. And love every minute of that. When it comes to the practice, we started, Liz doesn't work at the practice, but she's very involved in all of the important decisions in my life. So she helped design it and all the ins and outs of it. And when we did that, we tried to do a lot of unique things with the practice. We tried to make it very different than a lot of what's out there, fully revolving around the patient experience. So we brought up all the, horrible situations we've gone to, sitting in boring waiting rooms with old magazines and waiting to see doctors and nurses that aren't happy and every aspect of that. And we came up with solutions to each one of those. So we developed Mint Orthodontics, coming up on 7 years now.
Yeah. I think
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I think I might not be correct on this, but I believe the first time I ever saw you speak, you were talking about how you designed the office itself, and it's a little more Mac-ish than it is like a typical thing. And I remember being in the audience, I was kind of new to the industry myself, and I would often wonder, why don't people change this up? Right. If I was new in orthodontics or if I was a new dentist, I would walk into that area, that city, and I'd find out all the things people weren't doing or were doing just the same as everybody else and do something completely different just to stand out. So that's right. I remember that.
So I think that's one of the reasons Geoff and I make a good team in so many ways, because in business and in our personal lives. But my background is not at all medical. And I think that is great because oftentimes when you're only in one industry, for so many reasons, it's great. Yes. But when you're only in one industry, like that's what you know, and you're kind of like in a box or in a tunnel. And I always had just the opposite experience as him. So like when he was going through dental school and then practicing and then orthodontic school, like residency, like he was really learning that world. And during that time, I was in advertising. And the cool part about working at an ad agency, or being part of any life in marketing essentially, but ad agency life is you get to like a huge breadth of knowledge because you have to become an expert in all of your clients' areas of business. So really quickly, I learned about, cars and spirits and CPG and fast fashion and high fashion and high tech and B2B, like all of those areas, you just have to learn really quickly, know the ins and outs of your client's business, and then find ways to make them better. So whenever we were sitting in any situation, whether it was like in a waiting room or at the airport or whatever, you're just experiencing life. Like my brain is always thinking, why is this not better? And what would I do to make it better? So that's kind of the approach we took to his practice. And then, with Bright Referral, that was just a natural extension of how our brains work.
She's really good at saying like, here's my area of focus, my expertise, and here's hers.
Yeah.
So
well, there's some truth in that, of course.
Yeah. 100%.
Us 8 brains with the little tiny brain that we have as guys, only focusing on one thing. We get it.
No. You have to be really focused, but then you have a broader vision as well.
Well, what I like about that, Liz, is it's something that I often talk about too, even in my business is I really honor and appreciate my friends and colleagues that are consultants and coaches in this industry that have worked in the industry, right? They've had every position in the office and they can look at it from that standpoint and they can empathize and have that. And that's great. And I look at my special sauces. I haven't worked in any of those. I don't know anything of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I can look at it differently and I can say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Even though everybody's doing it, why are we doing that? And how can we change it? And I think that's where, even when you've seen me speak, even when I speak, I'm looking at, why are these people just up there doing PowerPoints and, boring presentations? Why aren't we doing something fun and interesting to help people remember and think? So I love that you took that approach to it. And of course, in advertising, you kind of have to be a chameleon in some ways with all the different types of people you're working with. So that's really cool. Liz, did you always want to go into advertising or?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I majored in, I remember applying to college and thinking like advertising sounds fun without really an understanding of why. I've always been I'm a master in perception. You might say, like, I remember my 6th grade science project. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just had a really great poster and that seemed to be enough. So, not that you don't need, you need the skills and the ability to back it up, but it was just something that made sense to me, like branding and like how you approach a conversation, a person, a business. Like that's just always seemed to make sense for how my brain functions.
Well, go ahead.
Now, it reminds me of I was at a conference with Ed Milet, is a really big motivational speaker right now. He has a couple of books out, and he was talking about real successful entrepreneurs don't need all of the information to make a step forward. They need enough information to move forward. And their only thing is, get me in the room and I'll figure it out. And to me, like, even with your board, it's like, I'm going to show you, like, look at the presentation, but I've got the goods to back it up. But sometimes you need that presentation. Sometimes you need that boldness. Sometimes you need to just get me in the room and then we'll figure the rest out.
Yeah. And that is so Geoff. Like I always say to people, like, he is the dreamer. Like he has the ideas. He can jump like 50 steps forward and like, this is where we want to go. And then I see
a squirrel and then I need to shift and get to the next thing. So you're 100% that Liz makes it happen for sure.
Entrepreneurs have great entrepreneurs have ADHD and all that stuff. Like totally. There's have you ever done your Colby score?
I have, yes.
What is yours?
I don't remember.
Oh, come on.
No, hold on. What was it? But I got called out. So a general dentist friend of mine brought me on this retreat, and there was like 300 people in the room, and the guy literally gets up on stage and goes, "Where's Geoff Sudit?" And I'm like, "What?" he goes, "You're the only person that's ever matched my level of, whatever it was."
Yeah, that Colby.
He's like, "You're made to be an entrepreneur." I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like lay low and like go with this dentist.
You probably had a large, a high. So there's 4 scores, 3, mine's 3,393.
Yeah.
And 9 is quick start. Like,
Yes.
all right, I have an idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was a green or whatever it was like yes.
Yeah.
But they walk around with all the colors on their name tag for each one of those. It's a cool test.
For those of you that are listening, if you watch the first episode of the new iteration of the podcast, The Own Your Role with Justin Breen, he is a Colby like just fanatic, and he looks at everybody through the Colby lens.
Ooh.
And he will work with you or not based upon your Colby score. So,
that's so interesting.
It's real. They do some similar stuff. It's really cool
because it's not based upon like personalities. It's based upon how your kind of work ethic and how you approach work, as opposed to, oh, you need more people talking to you or whatever. It's like whatever personalities can change. But anyways, nice diversion. But no, that's great, because here's the thing is that I've noticed this with Shannon and myself too. And this is one of the things I love about having a couple on the podcast, and we don't get a lot of them, is you see the dynamic between the two of that yin and the yang of how you work with one another, which in some parts is completely frustrating. And in other parts is the reason why it works.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a creative, but Shannon's incredibly creative, just logically creative. Right. She's like, well, what if you did this and that and the other? Yeah.
Yes.
That is great. I love that.
Yeah. I wonder if it's similar for you guys too. Like Geoff and I have been together for more than half of our lives, which is just a weird thing to say.
Isn't it crazy? Yes.
Yeah. And we really met when we were kids. Like if our kids met their spouse at this age, I'd be like, no, you need to like explore.
What age did you meet?
18.
Okay.
We met the first day of college.
Okay. We were 5 when we met.
So
I thought when you were saying early, I thought you were talking about your little kids. Like, don't.
That's right.
All right, you win.
But still, 18, like that's true, right? That half of your life thing is when you're like, whoa, that's when it comes weird.
Yeah, but so we've been connected for so long and like working together, I guess you could say, for so long that sometimes I wonder, like, did we just are our areas of expertise and the way our brains work, like did it develop this way because we're always working together, or is this who we are? I don't know anymore, but it works.
Liz, why ask why? Why do you have to have the answer to these questions? Just go with it. It's okay. You again, like Shannon, have to figure it out. You don't need to figure it out. Just it is what it is.
Logical side.
So when you guys started the business, did you start Mint on your like right away as a new startup, or did you said you worked for GP for a year, but then did you just start Mint right away?
So I practiced with a really good family friend, Randy Kunick, in Austin, Texas, for a couple of years, 2.5, 3 years, and then came back and started Mint from scratch.
Okay, so I gotta ask a question because I don't see this a lot. Why? I'm sure there's a reason behind this. Why not Sudit Ortho as opposed to Mint? What was that idea? And I'm going to guess it has something to do with marketing and branding, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I originally wanted to bring on partners and have a team, and I didn't want it to be about me. I to some extent, yes, but I wanted the ability to grow a brand and
have it be bigger than himself.
Yeah. Design around a name, a feeling, a color, all that, rather than just my name.
And then also his dad is a general dentist, and in the Minneapolis community, like it's just very tight knit. And we didn't want anyone to think like, oh, well, if you go to this orthodontist, you're going to that dentist. Like we wanted to feel bigger than that. So we were just trying to think, bigger than one person.
Love it. I think it's really smart. I don't think a lot of people think about that transition part and the growth of the business, and that I love that you're saying it's not all about you. So now you've been in practice for 8 years?
I've been in practice for almost 10 years, but it's in Mint almost 7 years. Yeah.
Almost 7 years. Okay. And you mentioned you're just in Minneapolis right now, right?
And to be clear, it's all about me. So it's
of course.
Yeah.
But it's really about her. But it's
There it is.
Yeah.
And so right now the practice is you have how many doctors underneath you, and who's your like ideal client that you love to work with?
Okay, so that's two. So
Yeah, two questions.
no doctors beneath me. Where I'm
Okay.
0 for 2 with associates.
Okay.
So it's all about
Done.
me.
It's all about you. Sure.
That's right. And when you say ideal client, like what are my favorite patients to work with?
Yep.
Um, I like low maintenance. I don't care how challenging the case is. I love a challenge when a case comes in. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, perfect teeth with a little rotation. Those are actually the hardest because they're probably the pickiest. But I like patients that trust me, that go with the flow. I don't know. The high maintenance ones, I tend to relate better with them, maybe, but it doesn't always mean
I
an
would,
amazing experience.
based on what I hear at home, your favorite patients are the ones that are respectful, which sounds like respectful and kind, which is the most boring answer that
But
you
you
can
would think that'd be the baseline, right?
Yes, it's not always the baseline, but like we really like going back to our approach for the practice, like we really looked at every part of an experience with a practice before you're a patient, during, post, like every part. And we're like, how can this be better? And the same goes for how we hire staff, how we design the practice, like the processes, everything. So like we want everyone to be treated with that level of like respect and thought and courtesy. And if patients who are maybe not as thoughtful, that can rub the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, well, and you put this much thought into it for them to be doing. You want that kind of reciprocal. All right, so I got to ask then, let's talk about some of the examples that you have around something you saw in the world, the normal world, that you're like, yeah, we're not doing that. And what have you done to make it different? Give me a couple of examples.
So many things.
Yeah. Do you want to do it, or you want to?
Sure. Well, let's just talk about office design. Like whenever you go into a practice, like I find it a little bit soul sucking usually. Like it's just sad and they're quiet.
You're talking about that's crazy.
Like, beige and just uninspiring.
Rented
and
furniture.
Slow. Yeah. Just boring. Yeah. Boring furniture. There's just no personality. You have no, like you could swap out every person and everything in that office and it wouldn't have no bearing on your experience there. So we just wanted with the design, like we wanted them to walk in and be like, oh, it's kind of pleasant in here. This brightens my day. So, when you check in, that feels good. When you're in the waiting room, that feels good. We put in practices in place so that you wouldn't have to be in the waiting room for long, so that you would never have to wait, because I personally hated the experience of feeling like my time is not as valuable as the doctor's time, when everyone's time is valuable. So like we wanted to eliminate that. We eliminated paper forms. It's nearly all paperwork. Yeah, I
mean, how many times have you been handed a clipboard with the same piece of paper on? I mean, I don't care what your third favorite hobby is. We'll get there on the fourth or fifth appointment, but I don't need that on paper to straighten your teeth. So we don't have paperwork. Like Liz said, no waiting. I spend a lot of time working with my team to develop mini orthodontists that can do a lot without me.
Love this.
They don't have to come in, when we're delivering a new set of aligners and all you have to do is give it to them. We have curbside pickups, and we had that before COVID. They don't need my permission to do very obvious things, because if I'm the patient, I don't want to sit there and wait for me 10 minutes in an exam and then come over and say, yep, looks good. I mean, we put ourselves in the guest's shoes every time they walk in the door.
Yeah. And guest actually is such a good, important word to use. We were inspired by some, not medical practices, but some places that we had frequented, like a hair salon, for example, where their philosophy was like, we're going to make your day. Like just by being here, we're going to find some way to stand out. And that was kind of something that we've taken to heart too. Like no matter what we do, it needs to do more than just that one function. Like how is it going to make you smile? Are you going to remember it? What are you going to say about it? How does this show up in other places in your lives?
Yeah.
And by thinking about it as a bigger picture, you can just get so much more out of it than like, hey, check in at the front desk. But like, well, what else? How else does that experience feel for you?
No, I love that. I'm a huge fan of that. I love that you even change names. You guys know I love to change names of, it's not the front desk, it's the director of first impressions or whatever, right? They're the guests for you. They're not your patients. And I've always thought even general patients just makes me feel like I'm coming in there to get healthy or fixed or whatever, and then spit back out again. These are my clients. These are my guests. These are the people who I want to cultivate a relationship with. But I gotta say, it's like one of those things that seem obvious if you want to be an entrepreneur. But if the only thing in your building, if you were to sell your building and all they had to do is change the name on the door,
Right.
it's a problem, right? Because it's
Mhm.
not about you. It's not branded to you. It's not unique and different. I often say your job is to ruin your guests in your practice in a good way. So that when they go to their optometrist and they go to their chiropractor and they're handed a sheet of paper, like, oh,
What?
so glad I don't have to do this over there, right? And they think of you as the bar that
Yeah.
is set. And I think of more and more, and I think we need to understand this as for you listening, is that right now, more than ever, that's what's going to help people want to keep coming back to your practice. I love Gary Vee. He talks all about how attention is the new currency. And this is an attention grabber. Oh, wait, this is different. Oh, okay. All right. Whether it be the music, whether it be the vibe, whether it be what you're doing that is different. Of course, everybody's getting braces. Like, and I remember when I first started in the industry, I remember there was a thread on like Facebook somewhere where somebody's talking about, no, all you have to do is give great quality work and then people will come. It's like, what planet are you on? Like McDonald's has a line around the corner. They're not doing it because they got great quality work.
Right.
Because everybody knows what to expect. It's a different experience. They know what they're going to get there. That's where you are. And so I love that you've thought about it that way. Geoff, with your ADHD and you're having to work with 80 to 70 clients, patients a day and loving that, how good are you about tamping down the, ooh, we should change that feeling when it's like, or not?
Not. In
Okay.
fact, it's a little embarrassing how many orthodontic assistants I have not doing orthodontic assisting. There, I have personal assistant and a
Good
team member who sits next to me, who's in charge of clinic flow, and I'm in Minneapolis. I've got a digital manager who's in Florida. And we now have a team member through Ortho VA that's in the Philippines.
Yep.
But I need to write those things down or send them somewhere else to help me delegate them and prioritize them for me, because otherwise it won't get done.
Yeah, so you've created systems though to make sure that when you're having those things, instead of just turning left when you feel like it, you're sending to your people. That's great. That's really smart. And I love that you brought out the idea of having your own personal assistant and having somebody else that could be virtual. I wrote my book in 2015 and I talked about as a whole chapter called Living Like a Rock Star. I don't understand why you would not have those people in your life when you, and we can go down to the very, very micro of, you don't have to get gas in your car. You don't have to, have your food delivered, especially in the world that we are today. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur and having great ideas and thoughts, having other people implement those to you. And by the way, you mentioned the mini doctor thing, like having little mini orthodontists.
Yeah.
I hear a lot from doctors who have patients, clients who feel like, oh, I want to see the doctor. How come I want to see the doctor? They need to see me, right? Which I think is a little ego thing. But I often give this example of, Walt Disney's been dead for over 60 years, I think it is.
Totally.
And I never walk in there going like, oh, I miss Walt. Because I have all of the cast members who are invoking the Walt spirit by working at Disney, making it a magical day, happiest place on earth. That's the same thing in your office. So that you're already set up, I'm going to create mini orthodontists, allows them to act a certain way and your patients to go, oh, this is just like I got treated by the doctor. Matter of fact, I'd rather see them sometimes than the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's really
that starts with, the initial call in the initial exam, the treatment coordinator room, them setting expectations and, making sure they know exactly what they're getting before they even sign up for it. So totally agree. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. So Liz, as you've been watching the growth of this practice, so do you work primarily behind the scenes with the messaging and all those things, and then come up with ideas, say, well, what if we did this instead? Or how does that work?
Yeah. When it comes to the practice, definitely behind the scenes. I did make the mistake of one day walking by a phone that was ringing and answered it. And that was the wrong choice for everybody.
That was early.
That was very early
year one.
Yeah, didn't do that again. So definitely behind the scenes, certainly from like branding, marketing, design, just like how we show up in the world, have a big voice in that. But I mean, I don't want to take away from Geoff's abilities there. Like he is very brand oriented, I guess. Like you're very good at seeing the big picture. And then I just kind of shape it the way how we want to shape it. And then when, like those Geoff's big ideas, or when anyone has an idea, I kind of help guide that from a strategic point so that it feels like it's all coming from the same place and working together in synthesis. And then we do also try to have like focus areas each year, so where we can like really focus efforts on doing something good, like whether it's sustainability or how we show up with the community or whatever it might be. And then we can kind of push that into the Mint brand feeling and voice and tone, and make sure it sort of comes through all touch points in a way that feels relevant, instead of just, we never just want to like talk to something, but we actually want to be like, okay, well, what does that mean? How is that going to show up? What really indicates success? So that's kind of the vision that I put into it.
And how much of that do you share with your team members so they're aware of that too? Like, this is what success looks like.
A lot, but it does depend on what it is, right? So like we've done a fair amount of, this is something actually that I brought from like the advertising world, or we did like full day or half day work sessions with everyone, involved in Mint, and talked about let's say like,
we were looking at bonus systems.
Yeah, like let's make life better for employees, because the way that we approach patients is how we want to approach staff. So like what makes a good day for you? Like what happens during a day when you go home and tell your loved ones like, hey, this was great. This made me feel really good. How do you feel energized? Conversely, what happens if you're just like, ugh, on the drive home, and like, oh, it's Monday. Like what makes you feel that way? And how can we change that?
That's really cool.
If we're talking about incentives, like what's an incentive that feels really good in the moment, and then it doesn't matter the next day when you have a cranky patient, but what's an incentive that feels good for a while and you keep thinking about it? So just kind of like keeping them in, everybody involved, remembering that every point of view is kind of valid, which is really important, I think, for you, Geoff, because it's that tunnel vision again, right? Like when you're an entrepreneur, you're treating 70 to 80 patients a day, and you just need to like keep growing and keep everyone happy. Like you can forget about all the other people that are having like whole real life experiences along with you. So I like to kind of remember the big picture, because I have that luxury. I'm not in the nitty gritty and can help do it for them.
I love that. I want to go back for a moment though, because how did you make that decision? One of the biggest challenges, I know you've heard this from other couples who work together in some ways, but one, whether it be the husband or the wife, was brought into the business early on, and it's hard for them to pull out of the business, or it causes some conflict there. How did you, like, that had to be a conscious decision that you made of, yeah, we're good in this way, but we're probably not going to be good. I don't know. How did you come to that decision?
Well, luckily our lives have always been very full.
Yeah.
So when we were starting Mint, like I had a full-time regular job. Like I was helping, run an ad agency, and we had children, and we moved across the country, and then we bought a house, and then we had twins, and I was still working full-time. And so life has never really allowed us to be like, okay, I'm in here every day.
Yeah, we never had time for Liz to work. I mean,
no, never the plan.
Yeah. I mean, dabble and think about it and talk about it, but never be here in it.
And I think we have we certainly recognize within each other, like we have very different strengths, and we have, and that's great.
That's
great. We want that.
Yes.
And we never wanted to be in a place where we were like solely focused on the same thing day in and day out, and that could just start to feel stale, and like we were fighting with each other rather than working together on something.
We don't want to work side by side like that. That doesn't sound good.
No, that's great. Listen, that you avoided that you were smart enough to think about it that way. I mean, I know there's so many different circumstances for so many different people, but that you recognize what would be the best for the practice, for your marriage, for your family. That's really important. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a shift now, because I want to dive into what you guys have created here with, and the reason really why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think a lot of people find their entrepreneurial niche and whatever they're doing. And I think there's unfortunately a lot of people who don't consider themselves entrepreneurs. I was actually just on a event recently where I was talking and I used the word entrepreneur, and a lot of people are like, well, we don't really consider ourselves entrepreneurs. I'm like, you own a business. You are an entrepreneur. You got to think like an entrepreneur. So there's all these different dynamics. And so that's hard enough. But then you decided to actually, because you saw a need in the market, create something, which is where all brilliant ideas come from, is like, well, what is not working? What can we, or how can we make this better? And you did it in a way that I think probably gets overlooked quite a bit, but there's definitely a lot of complaints about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you created your Bright Referral program. So talk to us a little bit about that and how that came to be.
Yeah, so a lot of it's been kind of what we've talked about so far, where when we built this practice based on the patient experience, I had a view early on where I wanted to digitize everything. So from the second the patient walked in the door to when they left, I wanted it to be easy, convenient. I wanted to have the data from it and be able to learn from it and make it even better and more efficient. So I achieved that with clinically, Light Force orthodontics and aligners being able to digitize the whole clinical side. So that made my life a lot easier as a practitioner and able to learn from that. The next piece that was missing was the referral process. So you think about the old school way of handing out a paper referral pad and how that can get lost, and it's just a miserable. Liz can talk about that.
Well, tell the story about when you went out to lunch.
Yeah, so I went out to lunch with a dentist, and she's a good friend, and she was saying, hey, made some comment about how all she does is send me patients, or how's the 5-6 patients she sent me last week, and I just kind of looked at her and was like, I can think of like one this year, two maybe, and I just, and it was early, it was February, so it hadn't been going on long, but
she's thinking 6, and you're like,
yeah, there's no way, and we tried to track that. Well, we asked patients when they come in where they came from, but
which is always an incredibly reliable source. I don't know why that was never. Well, I don't know why that's been a question.
Don't miss a thing. Like
yeah. And then so I went home and I talked about it with Liz. And then you simultaneously went through this a similar.
So he had this weird experience with the dentist where he was like, I don't believe you, essentially, or like what has happened to those patients. And then at the same time, I just happened to need knee surgery, and I kept getting referred to this doctor, and it turns out that there's 3 doctors in our area with exactly the same name and exactly the same specialty, and they take 3 different insurance.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, it was insane because I had to keep going back to like the physical therapist, be like, who am I supposed to call? No, that wasn't the one. Who? And it was like, took 3 appointments to get to the right doctor. So we were like, this has to be better. Like, how can this be the best way? And patients like should not have to do so much work. So that was kind of the impetus to get us starting to think about it.
Yeah. So, and the idea is, I mean, you've maybe seen digital business cards where someone takes a card, an NFC enabled card, and they tap it to your phone and you get all their contact info right there. And that's kind of the idea of where this came from. And then Liz can talk to, how we've built it from there and all the cool things you can do with it. But the idea is your referring office, or really anyone who wants to refer you patients in any way, whether it's festivals or high-end, salons and spas and
PTA people, community members, anyone that's talking about you.
So they have a card they take and they tap it to the patient's phone. And right there, as soon as that takes place, and they have a QR code on the back, you get a breakdown of everything about me and my practice. So you can schedule online, you can call, text, send me photos of your teeth, and I'll give you a quote. Learn about my reviews, see the website, everything, social media. And on my end, I get to track all that data. So I get to know, back to my idea of digitizing everything, I get to see who's sending me patients, how often, what those ebbs and flows look like. Does it change based on deliveries?
How to follow up with those patients. Also how effective they are at referring. So you can see like some practices refer a ton, but we're spending all this time in follow-up and no one is, scheduling an appointment. So how can we better train, all that kind of stuff that before you were just sort of guessing at. It was a one size fits all approach or just no approach at all. So now you never miss an opportunity is essentially the goal.
I had an idea on that. I'm assuming you also you mentioned all the different ways to use it. when you do the community events and you have your team members just standing around like handing out, hey, spin our wheel or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's our, like you can just tap that, because one of my favorite features of it has been when it gets tapped. Let's just say I'm at my dentist and I show my phone, they tap it.
Yeah.
All I have to do is put in my name, my email address, my address, or my phone number. And you, as the orthodontist, get an alert of, oh, this person just, and for me as a patient, I'm taking less than 60 seconds to fill that stuff out because I do it every single day on my phone.
Yeah.
And I probably even have it in my phone that whenever somebody asks for that stuff, I tap a button and it fills it all out anyway.
Yep.
And so for the business owner on the other end, for you as the orthodontist, to get the alert, to know that there's somebody there. How many people right now, just in our industry in general, and even in the world, are missing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars off of not knowing if that person actually was referred or not? Or I got to count on my TC following up or my front desk following up or whatever. And you can actually literally see, did they get followed up with? Did you have a call? Did you leave a message? What? It's literally right there.
Right. Yeah. Industry data, there's like a little bit of variability in it, but generally they say around 40% of referrals just sort of disappear. They don't, you have no idea that they were referred. They're not even on your radar. They don't call, they don't write. Like you don't know, you don't know what's happened to them.
And it's no, I mean, when you say thousands of dollars, the first year we tested Bright Referral for a long time before launching it, because the idea was just kind of build it for my practice and see how it works.
Sure.
That first year, I think the industry average was, down 2 or 3% as a whole as orthodontists, and my practice was up 36%.
Oh my gosh!
And I mean, we didn't really implement anything other than Bright Referral that year. So it was
that worked. It was successful.
It paid for itself pretty quickly.
To me, it's one of those things that I love watching Shark Tank, right? And when you watch it, you're like, how did I not think of that? Or wow, their brain thinks differently than mine, that they thought of that, but it's smart. I mean, how many things have I bought off Shark Tank? In this same scenario, looking at that and going, this is a no-brainer. If you want to keep referrals, if you want to make sure that you're tracking the referrals, and that's it. And it's funny when I hear people complain about it or referrals down. And by the way, what a service that you are doing for not just the orthodontist, but the dental community.
Yeah.
To be able to be, because they're the ones who are going to get the accolades. Hey, you sent me that. I still remember that Dr. Johnson sent me to Dr. Farash to get my braces, right? And that's all decades later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have that connection of, you're the general dentist. You're the one who is making that referral, giving your whatever you want, like you're anointing them with yes, you should go talk to this person. But I, as a patient, I'm going, you're the one who connected me to that person. And I got to change my life because of that. I got to change my brain. Even if that person doesn't start treatment with you.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
There's another part of it that with you, even talking about the things, looking at what can be a little different on the patient side of things, the ease of it for a parent. I tell team members all the time, did you, when I grew up, there was a DJ named Rick Dees in the morning. I don't know if you're
Sounds familiar. Let's go with it.
So in LA, he was had Kiss FM, and he had this little thing that he would talk about around when he'd have a celebrity or somebody on and he'd interview them, when he was trying to wrap up the interview, but also kind of telling us all, this person's not that important. Is he'd say, cool, thank you so much for being here. I will remember this conversation for as long as it takes me to get to my car. And
so sad.
It's so sad, but so true.
I'm gonna be bummed if Dino ends the call saying that. Yeah.
That's what I feel like when they're, you're gonna give me a referral. Okay, how many times does that referral go in the purse or with all the other cards I forgot about, tossed in the side panel? They forgot about you. They're not thinking about you.
Yeah.
So if I have a practice where my TC or whoever is alerted, now and you follow up when? Again. Well, how many more times? Yes. Until that person says no.
That's right.
But it's such a great option for people. I don't know. I just think it's so smart to choose it. I want to hear some of the success stories around it. Like you had your success story. That's cool. But what have you seen with some of your other, when you did launch it to the world?
I mean, we've had really great feedback from patients because, and that's not even something, I mean, you don't know what you don't know when you first start. And we always try, sort of going back to our point of view, building Mint, like for Bright Referral, we want it, if you're going to do something, it had to be better for everybody involved. So like, for the dentist or whoever's doing the referring, it has to be easier and faster and, slip right into that process. So like, it's just an easy win. And for patients, they have to feel like, hey, this was better. I'm getting better information in the way that I want it, how I want it, all that sort of stuff. But you don't know till you know. And we've been really happy with patients being like, oh my God, that's so much easier. Like, oh, I don't have to do any work. Okay, let's go there. It's just, it's so obvious when you think about like, for me, like when I get a paper referral, like it immediately goes into the laundry. It's like a magnet. I can't stop it. The paper goes into the laundry. So if I can share my information and someone does all of that follow-up for me, like I don't have to wait on hold. I don't have to talk to a robot. I just wait for them to call me at a convenient time. Amazing. I'm in.
Well, and for me, the two success pieces that I think of, the first time I was sitting in a lecture at an orthodontic conference and someone put up, here's how I grew my practice, and they put a thing of Bright Referral up there, not knowing that it was coming. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the other piece, that person just showing this is how we grew our practice this year, and here's something to check out. And then another is we've started to toy around with offering it to oral surgeons and periodontists. So we've got some people in our area that are trying it. So I get to be the one doing the referral to those people.
Yeah.
And 9.5 out of 10 patients, you do that, and it's like they're faced. It's like they don't expect it. They don't know what's happening, and then it happens, and it's like, what? You can do this? So to be able to do that, and then have to describe, hey, we work with this really great company called Bright Referral. I mean, that makes me feel pretty good every time too.
Yeah.
Well, two things about that. Number one, I really appreciate that I asked for an example, and you went to the patients. And I wasn't thinking patients. I was thinking about the doctors and their increase, because, doctors are listening to this like, well, how's this going to benefit my business? But like to know that it's also affecting the patients and the way that they see things is crucial. And it's so powerful. And then you've got the doctor side of it. Oh, you're going to make more money too. On that.
Well, like orthodontics is such an interesting medical specialty. And I think this is one of the benefits of me kind of being, I guess you can't really say I'm outside the field anymore because I'm into, software specifically for orthodontics. But anyways, my past was outside of the medical field. And so I was always like, well, you've got the point of view of the doctor. We've got that covered. But I'm a patient. Like that's where I live and breathe. And I have a lot of kids, and I understand how like that's like a whole mess of a world.
Yep.
So we never want to do anything if it doesn't benefit the patient, essentially. And we're getting back to my original point, orthodontics is so interesting where it can be seen as like a nice to have, not a necessity. And we could argue that, and we all have our feelings about that. But when you think about like 40% of referrals don't follow up, and that sometimes those referrals are like, medically critical, like, and you want to help patients get the care that they need and not have to do so much work to do it. Like that would be such an amazing win and a way to make like a positive impact. And wouldn't that be the best, for everybody?
I love that. And so now you've taken Bright, which has been around for 2 years now.
Yeah.
2 years.
Year and a half, right?
Yeah. Not two. So sorry.
Yeah.
And you're adding on to that another leg to the Mint empire.
Yeah, we didn't have enough going on.
Yeah,
we thought, let's do another one.
Yeah.
Right. And so you added.
So we launched a company called Retain. And again, going back to the beginning of digitizing everything from before they walk in the door to long afterwards, the only piece that was really missing was retention. And I had tried all of the different companies and services, and it was either a bad experience for me, a bad experience for my patient, or just made no sense financially. So we created a easy to use platform, very similar to Bright Referral in that it's just easy.
Yep.
And Liz taught me that the easier a software feels, the harder it is to create, which was 100% true with Retain. Because we built and tested this thing for a long, long time. And the idea is we save the STL files in the cloud. So when patients get scanned, we save their final teeth. The patients can pick whatever subscription level they want and have the retainers just show up at their door. or order on demand. So press a button whenever they want a new retainer. It gets sent. We manufacture them and send it directly to them. And by we, I mean one of the biggest orthodontic labs in the country.
I was going to say, in your
no, Partners Dental Studio, and they're phenomenal. So they'll send it direct to the patient, and then you, as the orthodontist, get 50% of every purchase that takes place on that platform. So it's passive revenue that just keeps on coming in, and then the patient side.
Yeah. So this kind of came from, it always made no sense to me and to Geoff as well. But like, when you're thinking about an orthodontic practice, historically, we always say like your only patient base that matters is like what's happened in the last 2 years, because that's how long you keep a patient. Like every patient is, 18 to 24 months, and then like goodbye. It's as if you never existed. They don't factor into the value of your practice at all. And that is so silly when we know like your teeth are always moving. Patients are not reliably wearing their retainer. They usually have to, like, at some point, they're going to need something else, whether it's just another retainer or a retreatment because they've, forgotten that their teeth are always moving. And that is just so silly. Like we pay, a relationship with the patient and a patient's relationship with the doctor is important. And we didn't like to Geoff's point, the other retainer software, because it's kind of severed that relationship as if it wasn't important. And then, if ever down the line a patient had an issue, it's like they're starting from scratch. So that's like the main point of Retain is let's keep those relationships together, keep it valuable for the doctor and valuable for the patient so that they feel like they're getting the care that they need. They're keeping their teeth exactly the way they ended, when they got their last tray or their braces off.
And all that money investment in the teeth and all stuff. Yep. No, I think it's great. Listen, I love listening to people who, and this will not be your last thought that you're going to have on things. You're going to come up with another 2 or 3 or 4 ideas in the next few years. Because this is why you give things to do to busy people who know how to do stuff. That's the way it works. So, I mean, and you can't help it, right? When you see something that is not out of alignment, no pun intended, you have to straighten it out. You have to fix it. You got to be like, man, this does not make sense. Why can't we do this faster, stronger? And whether it be you using a company like Lightforce, whether you be understanding how to have that patient flow experience, to have the Bright Referral, to Retain, like these all are just the way that I think upgrades happen in any industry. Is that when enough people are going, okay, well, this is fine. It served us. We honor it. We're so grateful for it. But how do we upgrade this to where it's an upgrade for everybody involved? So I love it. I think that what you're doing is awesome. I'm a huge fan, big supporter of it. We could probably talk for the next hour about more things that you're thinking about doing.
I'm like, is this a podcast or is this therapy? Yeah. I don't know.
It's always both. It's always. So we end our show with 4 questions that I ask everybody. And like I said in our pre-call, I'm going to like this because we get to have the 2 of your perspectives on this. It's a kind of lightning round just off the top of your head. Are you guys willing to play?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Before I get there, I apologize. How can people reach out to you? Let me make sure we do that. How can people reach out to you to find more about Bright Referral, about Mint, about your philosophies, everything you're doing?
Yeah, so check out our websites, brightreferral.co, not .com, .co, mintortho.com, and then Retain is iloveretain.com. Come find us.
Nice. Okay, very cool. And I highly recommend go check it out, you guys. Like, as business owners, I would say the last thing any business owner needs, and really any parent needs, is another job. And if you can find things that can make your job a lot easier, or somebody else can do it for you, always go in that direction. That's just the way to do it. And you're such an example of that, from your assistants to the way that you set up your business to all of that. So it just makes total sense. So let's play. All right. So it's based upon role, ROLE. So the first question is, what is your highest and greatest role on this earth?
That's easy. Liz's husband.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
How do you not say or a parent? I mean, it sounds so cheesy.
Oh, I was just going to say leaving it better. Being better than the day before, and whatever that might mean. Yeah,
love it. Very good. There's no right or wrong answer, Geoff. It's
okay. Fine.
This is so stressful. Yeah.
She wins round 1.
There's no winners. What do you want is the ultimate outcome for your life?
You go first.
Oh God, the ultimate outcome for my life. Hang on. I'm getting really deep, and I don't know if that's where we should be going.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. This is what it does. These questions get deeper, so it's great.
For me, it's family and friends. Like I want to, I want to go into the rest of my career, retirement, the very end. I want to be surrounded with family and friends. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
And I come from a group of 20, 30 of us that went to preschool and first grade together. So
Wow.
we have a tight knit.
I like to joke that Geoff never learned how to make friends because he stopped making friends at age 3.
What's that book? All I ever need to know I learned in kindergarten.
It's preschool.
Yeah,
preschool for him.
Didn't make it that far.
I would wait, what was the original question? My ultimate goal.
What do you want as your ultimate outcome for your life?
To be remembered as making people feel good.
Nice. What do you consider true leadership to be?
Go ahead.
There's so much imposter syndrome, right? It's fake it till you make it. I mean, to me, it's leadership are the people that are willing to stand in front and take one for the team, not the people that says me, me, me. It's the people that, it's not about them, but they make those people feel good. And, the one thing I'll always tell my team is I will always have your back. I'm never going to go up to a guest and throw you under the bus. I mean, that will never, ever happen. I have your back, even when mistakes are made. So to me, that's leadership.
Yeah. Leadership is not about you, I would say. It's
nice.
And that's something that's been so hard. I don't know if this is a short answer part of the interview or
yes, it is. It is, but it's okay.
Response. But something I've really learned about myself, like in a startup world versus like agency life, which is where I came from, in an agency, it's so collaborative and there's like 50 voices for every part of the decision. And I really miss that because all startup is, it's doing, but it is like strategic leadership, even though you're maybe not leading people, you're leading a business and how that kind of goes together. So I'm just like so excited for more growth so that we can bring more people into it and like get more opinions and have it like all kind of bring it up together. It's not about you.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay. Last question is the doozy. Unfortunately, every single one of us will have some day in our life where it's the final day on this earth. And hopefully that's years and years and years, decades from now.
I'm going to get up. I'm going to leave. I'm going to
go. He hates this. He hates
and what experience do you hope or want to have between now and dead?
Ooh.
So many.
God, this is therapy. Grandchildren.
Yeah, that's great.
Number one.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
I don't need babies.
When they're not yours, you can give them back.
It's true. Man, what's the one experience?
A day without anxiety. That sounds great.
God, I'm going so many different I'm like thinking cures to cancer and
first thing that came to your head.
Maybe I'll cure it. I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
You won't, Geoff.
I won't.
I'm gonna relieve you from that.
I would say I would go to space. I would totally.
What?
I would do it. I would like if there's space travel to Mars to just do like a tour. I would do that. That would
so
be
it's
fun.
like an actual experience.
Yeah, an actual experience.
Interesting. Okay. I went a whole different direction.
That's cool. We've had everything from walk my granddaughter down the aisle to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So it's
all good.
Honestly, I would say one day without anxiety, which is great for me.
Think you need to book yourself a quiet meditation retreat for
we can put like a hashtag Venmo up.
Yeah.
And people can just send
me
my retreat.
Wow. All right.
Well, you guys, this has been so much fun. You guys are a joy to talk to. And I love your banter with each other. I love when we get to have couples on because you get to see how you work together with it. And man, I'm so happy for what you're doing with Bright and with Retain and even with Mint and showing the way of what's possible inside of a business, inside of a relationship that has business involved. It's really cool. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you, Dino. I'll remember this conversation all the way till I get to my car.
Thank you. It's good.
Yeah.
That's all. It's recorded, so I'll send you a recording.
No, thank you. It
Thank
means
you.
a lot. I love everything that you do in the industry, and when your name pops up as interested in talking, that means a lot. So
I appreciate
awesome.
that. That's fun.
This was so much fun. I've loved it, and thank you.
Good.
We're happy to be
Good.
a part of anything that you do.
Yay, that's awesome. Makes me feel good. Okay. Well, everyone listening, thank you for being a part of the show this time again. Please reach out to Geoff and Liz and find out more about how the products and programs that they have can actually help your practice and help you grow. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took lots of notes like I did. I have my little whiteboard here that I keep taking notes while we're talking. So I really appreciate it. And everyone, again, thank you for being a part of the show and listening and subscribing. We'll see you on the next episode of the Own Your Role podcast.